Welcome in, everyone. I'm the big man on campus. Back again. We were on last night. Felt like doing it again. I mean, college basketball lines came out. It's time for us to lock and load and fire away, as they would say in this business. And I've been looking at them all day. I've already moved. We'll go through everything. Try to get to as many games as we can. We also will take plenty of questions. I have a little special guest here, and if you follow us in SBR, you know who he is. We've been trying to work on something, and we're going to try something tonight, see how it goes. I know you and I have done some work before, Mr. Ian Cameron. I'm glad to see you on here. It's the first time we've, other than last week when we were on with for Gabe Morency, I'm excited to talk about college basketball with you, man. We'll try to get to as many questions and teams as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here. A non-SBR production. It's Jeff and I on our own without a net here, bringing you college basketball talk from a betting perspective on the Friday slate, opening day. We're all excited for it. It's a monster card, as it always is that first day. You're obviously eager at 6 p.m. Eastern, just waiting for these lines to come up. But that's really when they really started to pop up widespread. You saw Bet Online post a couple hours earlier than that.
Yeah.
Before that, if you were able to get in early, you could have done that. But they're pretty much showing up now at most major offshore books. Vegas, they're going to be showing up as well. We've got a loaded card on Friday and lots of games to break down. Looking forward to seeing some college basketball. I'll be making a point of watching some of these games Friday night without a doubt.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if I've mentioned to you. I'm big on openers. I'm big on moving on games right as they came out. And I was just sitting here refreshing my screen, just waiting for Bet Online to put them out, really. And I really hit some of these numbers right away. And we'll get into some of them. Some of them have already moved. I've gotten good CLV on some of them. Some have actually moved in interesting favor, which we'll get into. But I welcome any questions. We welcome any questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can. I don't know why I kept Ian under wraps. I kind of just wanted to, chat about games. And I know Ian's a big college basketball guy, and I felt like, fuck it, let's break down some of the openers. I know we have so much we're doing right now that it's tough to get in time on SBR to do those. So I felt like, hey, let's jump in and try to crack some of these ourselves. I do want to point out, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get my listeners up, and I'm trying to have this as an avenue to jump in and break down things when we can. As I stated last night, for anyone, and I'm sure Ian, you have the same opinion here. Don't be betting college basketball just because you see it on and you see lines. I've been on some of the various shows today, and I'm seeing people asking about certain games and saying, why is that number where it is? Make sure you're doing the research. Make sure you're looking at these teams, and you're really kind of, like I've always said, make sure you're understanding what the teams have done in the offseason, when, who's transferred, who's got a new coach, blah, 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 blah. But, Ian, let's kind of jump into some of these. And I'll ask anyone, if you have questions, feel free to send them in. You have a team you want me to, ask us about, feel free to send those in. I know there were a couple people that had questions late towards last night that we may have not gotten to, but I welcome all the cool guys in here that are usually in here and are hanging around. I do want to say one thing, Ian, kind of off the college basketball radar. Ball State fucking stinks. They're dog shit, man. I mean, they are really horrendous.
Tell us. No, I'm right here. I'm just I'm not even surprised anymore with what I see from the Ball State Cardinals. I know it's a totally different brand of inept football. I don't know who's worse. I mean, in this MAC conference, really, Kent State or these guys. I mean, it's just a battle of who can really stink it up and look more like shit, especially on offense on a nightly basis. And tonight it's their defense. I mean, it's nowhere to be found. Northern Illinois is not a explosive MAC offense, and they've got 35 points up on the board already, and it's not even halftime yet. No, they're a brutal football team, and I said this, and I've said this many times. I don't make a point of betting on the absolute worst teams, and Ball State's one of those teams. Kent State's one of those worst teams. Doesn't mean I automatically see value to fade them, but doesn't mean I have to step up and back them just because there's perceived value, and the sharps may see some value on these teams. No, that's not it. They suck, okay? They blow for a reason. You're going to be sweating it out the whole time, trying to get a cover, trying to get a winning ticket with shitbag teams like that. It's not even worth stressing out over it. Ball State, I want no part of them now, probably not the rest of the year.
If you bet Ball State tonight, I think you should go out and go to your nearest bridge and jump off of it because it's probably better than what you might do in the future. Terrible, just horrendous. Really, really bad. I actually bet against them tonight, and I'm feeling pretty good as we head into tonight. But let's get to what we came here for, Ian, talking college basketball. And, like I said, feel free to leave some questions. We're already getting some coming in here, which I'm going to get to here. But I do want to kind of just discuss some of the lines I've already moved on here, Ian Cameron, and just kind of give my opinion here. I mean, I moved on Missouri. I got 2.5 there. That one's up to 4 already, which I had the opinion that I thought it would. It's actually up to 4.5 at BetOnline, so I'm really getting the best of it with this one so far. The general consensus coming out was 1, but I didn't understand that. I don't know where that came from. 2.5 was even a little low for me. You're getting Missouri at home here. Iowa State's a totally rebuilt basketball team. I mean, they were really hit by graduation last year, and I'm excited about Missouri. I love Michael Porter. I love really everything they do. They have a good mix of veterans that are already there, Kevin Puryear, guys like that, and they have Blake Harris coming in. They also have Michael Porter's brother Jonte coming in as well. I just think really in this game, it's a great spot to back a new team in the game, Ian Cameron. We're excited about this team. There's a lot of excitement about them, and I think tomorrow they're going to put on a little bit of a show. Iowa State, I'm not big on. I like Missouri. I got a great number here, but even at 4.5, I'm okay with this one. I think they win this one fairly easily.
It's an interesting – I'll be looking forward to seeing this because now all of a sudden you're looking at Missouri as an absolute dumpster fire of a basketball program last year. It didn't work out well whatsoever, and a lot of the talk right after the season is, well, this team's going to have a big, long rebuild ahead of us, and then all of a sudden in comes Quanzo Martin, in comes the Porters, in comes a great freshman class with boatloads of talent and a very, very high ceiling in terms of that talent level. And now all of a sudden expectations are very strong again for the Missouri Tigers. And now it's just a question of putting it all together, putting the pieces together, finding that chemistry and that rhythm on the basketball court. Can they do it right away in game one? We'll see. But the good news is they've got a team here that's got a lot of moving parts to it. I mean, Steve Prohm's definitely going to have to do some, or at least try to do some reloading with this Iowa State Cyclones team. He's got freshmen, he's got transfers, but, losing a guy like Monte Morris, not going to be easy. You're just concerned, too, about the down-low post presence for Iowa State coming into this season, specifically in a game like this where Missouri's size really could be a problem for Iowa State in the paint. Loose balls, rebounds, who's going to win those battles? Do you trust Iowa State? No. I don't. I think they're going to have some trouble with their bigs, particularly early on in the season. That's going to be a problem here in this particular matchup here tomorrow night against Missouri. So matchup-wise, it favors Missouri. It's just a matter of can they find that chemistry cohesion right off the hop. But I say this, Iowa State certainly, I think, is a team that's going to have some growing pains early on until they get their rotations figured out.
Yeah, I think they're going to struggle this year, particularly in the Big 12. Obviously, the Big 12 is it's not as good as it was last year. I mean, Iowa State down. Teams like some of the big boys are good. Kansas and some of those, but I'm just not sure Iowa State initially is going to be a team that I can get involved with. Just too much turnover right now. Welcome in, Lucky. How you doing? Hopefully you're doing well, brother. Justin Ream, what do you think about laying the chalk with Arizona tomorrow? Well, I mean, I'm never going to not want to lay the chalk with Arizona, but for me with them, where's that game at here? When you're sending in games, guys, please send me the game number. That way I can easily find it. Basically the rotation number. It's easier to find it. I don't think Arizona plays tomorrow, brother. Maybe I'm lost, but I don't believe they play tomorrow. They play Sunday, I believe. Oh no, they play Northern Arizona. What am I looking at? I'm sorry, Ian Cameron. I'm getting rattled here. This is the joy of live. When you don't have a host, sometimes the joy of a live show. It's one that I didn't look at just because I don't believe there's a line for this game. Is there? Are you seeing one, Ian, for this
Northern
game?
Illinois, Northern Arizona Lumberjacks. Yeah, it's 34.5. Arizona's laying 34.5, 35, and that right. Nearly 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, I didn't even look at this game. It's one that I kind of just glossed over. I didn't spend a lot of time on it. Look, I mean, for me, when I'm laying big numbers, which I've said before, I only specifically look at conferences that are playing the WAC or the SWAC, the MEAC, those kind of conferences. Northern Arizona is not good. They're a poor best team. They shouldn't have any trouble, Arizona. They should win by 40. But we're without some depth pieces right now. They are a team that is bringing in some new players as well. When you're dealing with games like this, I mean, you're obviously having lines that are big. Like I said, the only lines I lay this big are against Bmoc and SWAC teams, just because the level of competition just isn't there. Ian, do you have any thoughts on laying big numbers?
Northern Arizona was decimated by injuries last year. Big time problem for them. Do you trust them, though, in this game one? Now, they get one of their better players back from injury, missed a lot of the season last year, Northern Arizona. But you're talking about a step up in class here against Arizona. The problem is, for teams like Arizona, teams like Kentucky, teams like Michigan State, Duke, Kansas, go on down the list. This isn't about winning and just crushing it in November. This is about tinkering, fine-tuning your rotations, getting the combinations that work, and finding those, doing some experimentation, getting things figured out early on, and then peaking later in the season. So I'm never in any particular rush to lay 35 with Arizona in this game, or lay a big number with Kentucky when they play, I believe, Utah Valley tomorrow night, which is another game on this card. It's just you just never know. I mean, these coaches they're thinking long-term vision, big long-term goals in mind. Win in March, peak in conference season. Let's just, tweak our rotations. Let's do some mixing and matching. If we struggle a little bit, or we don't exactly are firing on all cylinders early on, it's not the end of the world. So it needs to be a special kind of circumstance for me to lay big points with these powerhouse teams that are in the national championship picture and contenders picture, like in Arizona, Kansas. So it's a game that pretty much I stay away from, because I don't trust Northern Arizona to step up in class, even though they're getting a ton of points. And on the flip side, I don't know if Arizona is going to be in a team that's ready to fire on all cylinders, or even cares to be firing on all cylinders right away in game number one. So it's an easy game to say. You just watch it and observe.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't have a problem laying big numbers, but like Ian said, it's really all about, do they care enough to beat a team by 40? Look, most of the time I wouldn't take the points. I'd only lay them. But like I said, against a team like Northern Arizona, they're not the worst team in their conference. They're okay. You really have to, when you're betting against those teams that are in, other than the SWAC and the Bmoc, you have to look at, are they the worst team in the conference? Okay, yeah. Well, then I might consider it. But when they have some kids coming back, they're not they're not totally lost. NAU is usually a bad team, but there's usually one or two guys that can play well. And it's really about, will Arizona care enough about blowing a team out? Plus, I mean, I'd have to look into how much do they play them every year. If they play them every year, there might be some camaraderie between Sean Miller and that coach. He might not want to blow them out too bad. But with a team like Arizona, I would never bet against them in this kind of spot. You mentioned that Utah Valley Kentucky game. Looks like bookmakers got this one way wrong. This one opened. The opener for Kentucky was 26. It's all the way down to 21.5. And I think it was just a little too high. Utah Valley is, to me, probably the third best team in the WAC behind Grand Canyon and New Mexico State. They have a kid named Akolda Manyang. He's from Oklahoma, 7-footer. He could be a guy that might keep them in this game. But you're starting to get to a point where Kentucky might have a little bit of value. And they have a ton of talent. They could have the most talent in the country, maybe other than Duke overall. It's just, cohesively in the second half, are they going to care enough to blow them out? I'm usually a buyer on Kentucky at home. I land big numbers like this. I mean, they can blow out a team in the SEC. Who's to say they can't do it to Utah Valley here? Let's keep it moving here. There's a question about Northern Colorado and Colorado, which I found kind of interesting because, Ian, I don't know how much you know about the Northern Colorado Bears, but many don't know too much. But they have a player, his name's Jordan Davis. I mean, he made news last year basically because he killed it in the summer on the Azerbaijani basketball team, the national team. Now, if you do your research on Jordan Davis, you won't find any Azerbaijan in his blood. He's not Azerbaijani at all. He's not from that area of the world. His parents are American. But according to FIFA, according to their rule book, it allows countries to suit up one naturalized dual citizen per competition. So they could basically, get a kid a passport and suit him up, regardless if he plays there. So I don't know if you know who Nikola Mirotic is. He plays for Spain in the FIBA games. He has no connection to Spain whatsoever, but there was some kind of statute that they put in years ago that allows Jordan Davis to play for Azerbaijan, and he played really well. He's the one kid for Northern Colorado that I really like. Good player, can definitely score for them. But Colorado's kind of in a bit of a rebuilding year themselves, Ian. They're a team that in the Pac-12 that I think is going to struggle. They've had their chances, but losing a kid like Derek White hurts. I have them like 10 or 11th in that conference. Should they be able to beat Northern Colorado? I would think. Numbers kind of low. Any thoughts on Colorado, Ian?
They got to replace a ton of people, ton of minutes, ton of production from last year's team. And we've seen, I wouldn't say better versions of the Colorado Buffaloes than this year's version, but because they frustrated me. I mean, I've tried to make cases to bet this team time and time again, and for some reason we've seen Tad Boyle's crew really underachieve at times. It's been sort of their MO the last couple of seasons, and they've got a lot of things they've got to replace. Derek White certainly is going to be a guy that's going to be a tough time replacing, especially without his offense. Going to be a little bit of an issue for them. You're going to need to ask for a lot more of some other players on this roster. Dominic Collier's going to have to do more. George King's going to have to do more. George King, a senior, going to have to really step up here for this Colorado Buffaloes team and be a leader, I guess you could say, for the Buffaloes. And I'll say this too about these matchups where you got little brother versus big brother in state. You see this all the time. Look at USC. They're playing a smaller in-state team. There's a bunch of these games the first couple of days of the season where it's going to be a big brother versus a little brother team from a smaller conference inside the state. Smaller team, smaller little brother, they get up for these games. They want to make a point. Maybe they're outmanned. Maybe they're, they just can't match up talent-wise over the course of a 40-minute basketball game. It's going to show on the scoreboard in some cases, and certainly it does. But oftentimes I'll try to make a case to take underdog points with the little brother team against maybe a somewhat suspect bigger brother team, in this case Colorado from the Power Conference, because Northern Colorado comes into this game, hey, we got nothing to lose. It's Colorado. We're going to come to play in this game. Certainly altitude's not going to be a factor. They're used to that, being in the same state. I actually lean a little bit to Northern Colorado here, plus the 10 points. I don't know if I'll pull the trigger, but it's something that piques my interest. I'm looking to make a case in a lot of situations, and especially here when I don't think Colorado's got that degree of dominance in them to maybe just brush aside a team like Northern Colorado, even though the Big Sky often at times can have trouble, those teams stepping up in class. That's not a conference that has stepped up in class very well over the years.
Here's what I'll say about Northern Colorado. They're well coached under Linder. And if you look at their exhibition schedule, they took Colorado State to the woodshed in Moby, in Colorado Springs, or wherever. Where's Colorado State? I think it's Colorado Springs. They lost 83-79 in that game. I know it's an exhibition, but I got to agree with you. Again, it looks like kind of not enough points, to kind of get involved with Northern Colorado, but they're an interesting team. Davis is a good player. They have a kid named Andre Spite. They brought him in from Arizona State. He played in the JUCO ranks for a year. They brought him in. I agree. In the in those big brother, little brother matchups in football, I'm a big fan of those. When a Tulsa plays Oklahoma or vice versa.
Exactly. Yep.
You're catching some of these teams, that are struggling a little bit. They're coming in off of a tough graduation. They got to replace a lot of players. And you have a team that's coached by Jeff Linder that he always does a good job for the Bears. So I could see it. I could see a little bit of an upset here maybe. Could they win? No, but I think they could cover. I don't think that's crazy. I have ones that I'm looking for a little bit more, including the one you just mentioned here, Ian, which I want to get to quickly before we talk about the other ones here. And a couple people have mentioned it, Mercer and UCF. I'm actually close to moving on UCF in this game, waiting to see where the line goes. Look, I like Mercer. I said it last night. I'm a big fan of Bob Hoffman. I always have been. I've always liked what he's been able to do there. They bring back five freshmen or five scores from last year. They're going to be tough. But A, this is a road trip. B, this is the best defense team you're going to play all year. UCF is a downright nasty defensive team, Ian. I mean, they were top 20 last year in defense. Okay, they're going to put you into half court. and really make it hell for you. I wonder in the first game of the season, is Mercer ready for that? I mean, that's a really tough job to go from Macon down at Central Florida, a Central Florida team off a good year, a team that people are pretty high on. And let's be real. Let's talk about the big kid in the room. Do they have anyone that could play with Taco Fall? Because I'm not sure I see it here. And here's the problem when you face a kid like Taco Fall. Obviously, he's 7'6", and B, it's really pretty much impossible to score on him inside the lane. So you're going to shoot a lot of jump shots. They just make it very difficult to score. And from what I've read, Ian, I'm seeing a lot of people talking about Mercer can upset UCF, blah, 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 blah. I actually think they have a lot of trouble scoring in this game. And I'm actually close to moving on Central Florida. I just want to see how low the line can actually get. If I can get a 6.5 here, I'm going to move on it.
Yeah, I like both teams. I won't be involved, but I really like Mercer. Again, this is the team that when Bob Hoffman last had this kind of Mercer team, guess what they did? They beat Duke in the NCAA tournament. Exactly. 5 seniors. I mean, that's not something you usually get. You're very fortunate when you've got this kind of circumstance and situation that he's got here with this Mercer Bears team. And, I trust him to have his team prepared. It's a question of, as you're right, is this team going to have to grind it out in half-court offense here and be able to find ways to put up points? That's not going to be easy against Central Florida. We all know how good of a low-post behemoth Taco Fall was last year for the UCF Golden Knights. Back again this year. It's going to be a rim protector, rebounder, just completely seals off any chance you get at taking a ball to the tin. And that's going to be the concern here for Mercer. They got to hit jimmies if they're going to and knock down probably some perimeter shots as well if they're going to have a chance to pull off the upset here. I like both teams, big man. So I wish you luck if you're going to take UCF, but I'm not inclined really to go against either one. I like both teams. I think there'll be money to be made with both teams as the season progresses, but it's a game I'll be finding, I don't know, some stream or something, some way to keep an eye on that game because I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
And I want to tell you this, it's not just Taco Fall down in Orlando. It's BJ Taylor, who is finally fully healthy coming into a season. He was hurt last year. He was hurt the year before. He is an elite guard. I mean, he's a very good player. AJ Davis, kind of a tweener guard forward. They have some good players in this basketball team. I'm really excited about them. I actually saw them play last year against Temple down at the Leah Core Center, and they fought in that game, ended up winning it. Donnie Wright State and I went to it. It was a great game. I mean, I don't know, Ian, if you've ever seen a player like Taco Fall in person. It's quite amazing, really, that a human being is that tall.
Freak of nature, right? Freak of nature.
It's pretty amazing, really, actually. And it's, you walk down the court, and I'm just like, holy fuck. How's this guy not scored literally every play? I mean, he's literally, he likes like 6'9" kids look like, me next to him. It's amazing how big the kid is. And I got to be real. I'm not sure Mercer's going to have much of an answer for him down low. And I want to also point out Johnny Dawkins is one hell of a coach. I really like what he's done at UCF.
I got to see more from him before I say that, but I was not a fan of him at Stanford. But, last year was a good year. But this is a year where there's expectations now a little bit on UCF. Let's see. Hopefully he just gets out of the way and lets the players do it because he is one guy that I worry could screw this thing up a little bit.
Not a Johnny Dawkins fan?
Not a Johnny Dawkins fan. No.
I can understand that. We had a comment about Wright State. I believe someone here mentioned Wright State. Just an overall season outlook on Wright State. They're in a tough conference, and that's kind of the problem. They also lost one of their better players, Mark Allstork. He transferred. That was definitely big, losing him. But, I mean, you don't got to deal with Valpo in this conference. The problem is, Ian, that you did lose Valpo in this conference, but you look at the top 5 teams. I mean, Oakland is very good. Northern Kentucky's off of an NCAA tournament bid. UIC's getting their best player back. Detroit's a better team than they are. Youngstown's a better team than they are. Wright State's going to struggle a little bit this year. They're going to have to get really good guard play and have someone step up. I'm not big on them in the season. As far as against Loyola Chicago, it seems like too many points, to be honest with you. But I got to look a little bit more into this one. let's keep it moving here, Ian Cameron. Thoughts on Ole Miss this year and tomorrow against ULL?
I don't want to say upset. I don't want to say upset potential just yet, but Ole Miss is going to have to come to play in this basketball game. That Lafayette team out of the Sun Belts, they got some talent this year, and a situation where I think they've got a chance maybe to give Ole Miss a little grief in that game.
Yeah, I want to mention something quick, but I see we have a guy named Ace Varner in here. Is that Ace Farmer, or am I seeing things here, Ian? Identify who you are, or you're out of here. Because I have a feeling that's someone planning a couple jokes here, Ian. We have a guy, Ace Farmer, that comes into our shows. Yeah, as far as on the ULL, I like UL a lot. Bryce Washington's a double-double machine. They're a team that I'm pretty high on down in the Sun Belt this year. In my preview, they were actually my sleeper that I did with Donnie Wrightside. I really like them. They have a kid named Frank Bertley as well, 6'3" guard that I really like. Did some good things in the transfer markets. The Sun Belt's always an open conference. I said on the show that I did, I thought that they would give Ole Miss a bit of a problem. I like Ole Miss. I'm a big fan of them, but the truth of the matter is they play down the competition a lot of the time. I like Burnett a lot, great scorer. I like Markel Crawford. I like Terrell Davis. But ULL is a scrappy team. I could see them hanging in that game. I would probably take the points if you ask me. But at 9, I think it's a pretty good play, Ian.
I'll look to Lafayette. I'll have some bet on them. Because I really do think they've got talent there. And the one thing about Ole Miss, very schizophrenic offensively at times last year. They go in and out of scoring droughts, and the well would run dry, and they would be able to hit any sort of shot, particularly from outside at times last year. And you just worry something like that could hurt them here in a game like this. And, you can't overlook the kind of talent that Bob Marlin's bringing back here with this Louisiana Lafayette team. The backcourt's solid with Frank Bartley leading the way there. Down low, they've got some presence as well. They brought in some good 3-4-star recruits. That's a good sign for this team. For a Sun Belt team to get talent of that caliber is not bad whatsoever. They've got rebounding basketball should be something that this team's able to do as well. And that's the thing. Just play good, solid defense, rebound a little bit, get some key shots, use your size, and you're going to have a chance here in this particular basketball game against Ole Miss. Ole Miss very good, no question. Kennedy's done a very good job here with this program. And then the SEC, they're probably one of those mid-tier teams going into the season. But this is a very tough opener, very first game of the season against a Lafayette team that, hey, these teams that feel they're good in these mid-major conferences and stepping up to a power conference team, they come into these games with a chip on their shoulder. They've got to come into these games with a point to prove. So, and if they're talented, oftentimes we're seeing this more and more. The talented team from the mid-major with a chip on their shoulder against a okay, but maybe not necessarily great power conference team, that team can actually go on the road and get the job done. We've seen it time and time again, especially early in the season when rotations are still being tinkered with. This is a spot here where Lafayette could absolutely give Ole Miss one hell of a game on Friday night.
Yeah, no, Ole Miss is a middle-tier SEC team. They could, the problem that they've always had is it seems like Burnett gets injured at some point every year. I'll tell you, who I liked at Ole Miss? Do you remember Marshall Henderson, Ian?
I do remember him. He was a little bit of a not a hothead, but he was just a head case. Exactly. He was for a little bit, but he definitely could shoot. But it was just a problem of keeping his head on straight, and that was a chore for the coach to keep that head on straight of his because he was a nut at times.
He was always involved with doing stupid stuff on court. Yep. And I remember one time he hit a game winner against Auburn, I believe, in Auburn, and he ran over to the student section and just made a gesture, and they flipped out. He was a great player, funny guy. There's actually a great Vice did a great documentary on Marshall Henderson. He played in Iraq in a basketball league in Iraq, and it was really interesting, like how his life was at this point, and he made a ton of money, but you're playing in Iraq. Someone's asking
maybe he's had a chance to mature over there, because if you don't mature over in Iraq, you're going to have some problems.
Right.
Major fucking problems.
It was crazy because they literally would have to they would go to the game and then they would go right to their hotel and just stay at their hotel. It was pretty interesting. And in one of the scenes, he's sitting there, they're eating dinner, and they just hear a car bomb go off, and it was just right outside of their window. It was pretty unbelievable. Line moved an Elon Duke game. Will the Elon defense keep this game close? Well, this is an interesting game, Ian, because I'm pretty high on Elon this year. They're bringing back most of their team from last year. They have a kid I really like named Tyler Sebring. And if you remember this game last year, this was the game where Grayson Allen infamously tripped one of the players for Elon, Steven Santana, and that was where the whole tripping thing really got going. And I like Elon. I think defensively they're very good. But this is close to the point where it's kind of like I could see them getting blown out here. Elon's quality, but their quality in the Colonial. Duke, I have a feeling Ian is going to be a lot like the Warriors this year. They might struggle in games for a little bit, and then they're really just going to go on one of those 20-4 runs and just blow your ass out. Duke has a ton of talent, and I just have to be realistic and tell you that I'm not really looking to bet against them early on here. For me, I have a feeling that a lot of things this year are going to go right for Duke. I think Grayson Allen's going to be a leader. I think they're going to get a lot of great production from the mass amounts of talent that they have. They're just really, really good. And starting out the season, I really don't want to bet against Duke, especially at this number. It looks good. If you study Elon, it looks like they can hang in this game, but it might be for the first half. But, Ian, do you have anything on this? I really don't want to bet against Duke. I'm sorry.
If I had to, I'd take Elon, to be perfectly honest with you. And the reason I do that is because the same thing I said about Arizona, and the same thing is about, all of these programs that are in this big time top 10, top 20 in the country preseason, and teams that believe they can win a national title. They're not going to be looking to peak and be at their A game and have their rotation set in stone on November the 10th when this season tips off. It's all about gradually building, gradually improving, and peaking in January, February, and March when the postseason rolls around. So is Duke in any rush to go out there and just blow the doors off Elon here in this basketball game? For as much as their talent is extraordinary coming into this season, we talked about how the great they've recruited. Coach K's bringing in a great class. No question about that. Grayson Allen back. It's a loaded basketball team. It's a deeper bench than they've had in years past, which has been a problem for Duke in seasons past, where there's been nobody to turn to once they get in foul trouble, and he's left hanging for dear life. Coach K trying to find someone that can step up, make a play, do something for his basketball team. And if you're Duke, you just wonder, are you going to go for the killer instinct here in game number 1 of a very long basketball season? Maybe not. And if they are kept a little bit out of sorts and just trying to, find some chemistry and rhythm on the court, Elon's a talented enough team they could take advantage. So if you ask me, if I had to bet this one, I'm closer to taking the points with Elon than I would be laying them with Duke.
Yeah, they actually, this game last year, 72-61. It was a fairly close game, interestingly enough. But if you remember, Grayson Allen did have some trouble in this game, and I believe he was sat for the rest of the game. I don't remember perfectly, but I think this game it's just I'm not really looking to bet against Duke. But, by the way, with Duke, I kind of noticed this just looking at their schedule. You got to give a little respect, though. We talked about Utah Valley a little bit earlier. Did you see who their first 2 games are against, Ian?
Who? Duke?
No, Utah Valley. They played Kentucky, and then they played Duke.
Wow. I knew they played Kentucky. That's a tough first 2 games for a good WAC team. This is a good WAC team, Utah Valley. So talk about tests right out of the gate.
Yeah, they're definitely testing themselves, aren't they? Also, this is kind of an interesting angle if you want to kind of look, kind of foreshadow a little bit. Duke has 2 games this weekend. They play tomorrow night, and then they play on Saturday also. And then on Tuesday.
Exactly. This is not a spot where Coach K's running his starters 40 minutes into the floor.
I hear you, Ian. I guess I will kind of just point out that I don't think this line's that high. 19's not that high for, when you're pulling starters, you want to be up 30. If this was 27, 26, I would be a little less into it. But at 19, I don't hate this number. I actually think it's Duke bettable here. I don't think 19's that high in this game. But you're right. I mean, and it kind of foreshadowing, like I said, you have Duke tomorrow. You have Utah Valley on Saturday, which should be 2 easy ones. You want to hope that if you're Coach K, you want to hope that Utah Valley, you blow them out and you can sit your guys, because Michigan State has 1 game this weekend, and it's against a North Florida team that's totally rebuilding. So that could be an interesting kind of spot there. I kind of like Michigan State anyway, but we'll see.
I'm going to actually step in and answer some of these Metro Atlantic team questions.
There you
There's a
go.
couple. Siena, Charleston is one that someone's mentioning on the rotation. Let's see where that is. I'm going to find it. Here we go. 585, 586. Charleston laying 18 against Siena. Total of 140 pretty much at bookmaker/Chris. Siena was a very weird team last year. They were terrible to begin the season. They got hot late in the regular season. Then they went all the way to the MAC title game, had a great run in the MAC championship game before losing to Iona in that MAC title game. But weird season, up and down. They had internal locker room issues. Nico Clarith was a guy that was a bit of a head case for Siena. Great player, but he caused a little bit of a disruptive, turmoil-filled locker room for that Siena Saints team. And there's now a little bit of a hot seat on Jimmy Patsos now. He's been here multiple years. It's a situation where there's pressure on him now to perform a little bit. They're a much younger team. They've lost a ton of the key upperclassmen, juniors and seniors that were on that Siena team last year. So there's going to be a problem area maybe early on. Point guard's a question mark for this basketball team coming into the season. The front court as guys with potential, but a very young group up there, even though they do have some size to them. So it's going to be a situation where it might be addition by subtraction. They're much younger, a lot more inexperienced, but it might be a little bit more harmony in that Siena team because there was some divide a little bit at times in that Siena team last year. We saw it midway through the season when it looked like things were falling apart. The Nico Clarith stuff was going on. I think there's going to be a buy sign and a buy low opportunity on Siena early in the season. Are they ready for Charleston? Charleston, pretty good basketball team here in this first game. I'm not sure, but I think there's point spread value early in the season on Siena. Don't know if I'll trust them in this spot, but maybe moving forward after this game, based on what I see, I want to see how they do here against Charleston, but I've actually got Siena circled as a potential buy-on, play-on team as the games unfold here in the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, I actually like Siena. I picked them to be a sleeper in the MAC. I'm actually a big Patsos fan. I like them. I like him. I always have. I think he's a quality.
Jimmy the Greek, exactly. How can you not? And he's flamboyant. He's a very entertaining character. How can you not?
Yeah, and I think you can make a case that I think Nico Clarith's the best player in this conference, honestly. I think when he's dialed in and is into basketball, he's a great player. And I think last year you kind of taught him a little bit, it's time to wake up. It's time to get with the program here. And he played very well towards the end of the season. They also have a player named Asante Shivers that's very good as well. They have big guards at Siena, 6'3", 6'4". And here's the key for me against any team. The Siena Saints are an extremely good rebounding team. They always are under Patsos. That's something they do well. Charleston's a good team, very good mid-major, one of the better defensive teams. Kind of reminds you of what we were talking about with UCF. They really make it difficult to score in the front court. The question I have is, I'm not in the mindset to lay 19 with a team like Charleston. They're a great defensive team, but, Ian, they're going to try to win in the 60s. That's a lot of points to give to a team like Siena, who has good guard play. I think it's going to be quite the battle between Cheatley and Nico Clarith. I think this is too many points, personally. I think they'll be up for this game. It's a good basketball team coming in here. I like Siena. I actually kind of like them at plus 19 here.
Oh, wow. Big man likes them even more because I was leaning Siena, but I wanted to sit back and wait because are they ready to go on the road first game with a young basketball team? I think it's a fresher, better ambiance and camaraderie with the team this year compared to last year when they had all that crap going on. But are they ready to go on the road and perform and have that chemistry right off the hop with a bunch of youth on it? That's going to be the question. But it depends. If I see good effort and Siena hang tough in this basketball game, that's definitely a buy signal for me moving forward. That means this team might be better than the betting markets think, and we might be able to take advantage of it before they can catch up.
I thought this line would be like 13 or 14. I thought this was too many points personally, yeah, it would be the way I would look at it. As far as best gamblers saying Duke starters might not get a lot of time, I think you're kind of flip flopping. I think they'll get less time against Utah Valley as opposed to Elon. Elon's a better team than Utah Valley. I think K will keep them in for as long as possible. I mean, if they're up 35, I'll take them out. But I would imagine they'd be more inclined to play in this game as opposed to over the weekend in the second half of a back-to-back. That'd be my opinion. I want to take Siena, but they lost three.
We need a security check here on Sports Rage in the chat here.
Look who joined us here, our buddy Gabriel Morency.
Yeah. That's the thing. I'm paranoid. I don't even know if it's actually even Gabe, for crying out loud. Yeah.
Yeah. Verify that it's actually you, Gabe, because that could be anybody.
I know we're paranoid because of all these fake profiles that we have to deal with on SBR and that bullshit.
Yeah, we have fake Joe Lisi's. I've seen Ed Fang fakes. I've seen all sorts of people. But I actually I wouldn't worry too much, Gabe. I think Claris a really good player. Shivers is great as well. Claris a good Baltimore guard, one of those good Baltimore guards, from Calvert High. I like him a lot, and they rebound. That's one good thing. They might get some extra opportunities in this game. 19 just seems too much for me. I thought, like I said, this would be in the 13-14 range. They'll be tough to score on, but I got to go with the Siena Saints here. Hey, big man, I heard your best bet was UCLA before the line came out. Yeah, I love UCLA tomorrow. Very high on them in this game. I made that play on the round table. I got it 8.5, which, obviously is a little bit more than what you have, but I think they win by double digits. I think both teams have had trouble in China. They both have had big trouble in Little China, as they would say, which is kind of a dumb joke. But I think Georgia Tech's in a worse spot. UCLA is really deep. I mean, they're a really deep basketball team. I mean, not only are they bringing back Thomas Welsh, who I think he's going to have a breakout season. He had a good season last year, but I think he has a great season this year. They bring back, Aaron Holiday. They bring back Goleman. They bring back, all these kids. And they have a ton coming in already. Their two best recruits, Chris Wilkes and Jalen Hands, are fantastic. They're a deep basketball team. I don't like what I'm hearing out of Georgia Tech. There are a lot of grumblings that, Pastner has some trouble, and they've already suspended their first and third best scorers from last year. I think Ben Lammers, it's going to be hard for him to do everything here. I just don't really like Georgia Tech in this spot. I feel like they're kind of just in no man's land, and they're in another country. I just think UCLA is better suited here, even with a couple of the guys, not going to be playing in this game.
That's an 11:30 p.m. Eastern game tomorrow night because obviously it's in China. UCLA, Georgia Tech. Then we got a broadcast crew announced for this game. Roxy Bernstein, and we don't have to wait long to hear him. He's nutty. He's goofy. He's back again. Bill Walton with him. Roxy Bernstein and Bill Walton, UCLA, Georgia Tech.
I can't
talking about friggin' Grateful Dead and global warming and all kinds of great topics during the game. Yeah,
I can't say I'm too excited for that. Imagine this,
doped up on acid and a little herbs before the broadcast. I'm sure Bill Walton. Yeah.
Imagine this for a second. Let's say instead of putting Roxy Bernstein in there, let's say we take LeVar Ball and we put those two together.
Yeah. LeVar Ball and Bill.
What a shit show that would be. Christ.
Who's gonna do play-by-play? Anybody capable?
No, they just sit there and just argue about stuff.
Yeah, they wouldn't even mention, a foul there or a rebound. No, you wouldn't hear any of that stuff.
On a show together.
Yeah.
That's I can't believe Bill is taking that long of a trip. He loves the Pac-12, doesn't he?
Oh, he loves his UCLA Bruins. Anything to go and commentate a game that they're involved with.
Conference of Champions, as he would say.
Exactly, the Conference of Champions there.
Yeah. Couple others I've moved on. I took Oakland at 6.5. That one's already moved.
Good game that is against IPFW. But with IPFW, is this can I get a stop every now and then and play some defense? That's always been their issue. They're going to score. They can light it up. They can score 80 points, 90 points on you in the blink of an eye. Can give up that many too. So what are we going to get defensively from IPFW against an Oakland team that looks pretty damn good, as we both agree?
Plus, it's in Oakland. IPFW, as you stated, a poor defensive team. They're always a team that can fill it up. They did lose a lot last year. Mo Evans is gone. Bryson Scott's gone. I like Kaufman a lot. Good coach. IPFW's made me a lot of money over my career, but they just weren't very good defensively last year. And against Oakland, that's not a good recipe. I think you can make the case that this is the best team Greg Campy's had. This is going to be the time you go for it. You don't have a Valpo in here to worry about much anymore. You added Kendrick Nunn from Illinois, a scorer that I think can really kind of – I don't think he'll be Kay Felder, but I think he could be similar to what Kay Felder was. I think Oakland's a top 25 team, to be honest with you. I think they have one of the better defenders in the country in Bmoc down low. I think they pound IPFW, to be honest with you. IPFW is getting way too much respect in this game. I think they should be 10.5, 11.5 point underdogs here. I think Oakland's a good play at 7. I would move on it as well. I get the best of it. Oakland is a special team this year. To me, and if you call St. Mary's a mid-major, to me, the best mid-majors coming into the season are St. Mary's, Oakland, Bucknell, Charleston. Those teams out. St. Mary's I'm incredibly high on. I think this could be Randy Bennett's best team, but I like Oakland a lot. I think we really see a big game from them tomorrow night. I'm really excited about the Kendrick Nunn signing. He was a good player at Illinois. I think he's going to be a great player here.
Chris Lomas, Football Observer, asked about another Metro Atlantic team, Niagara, taking on St. Bonaventure tomorrow night. That's a very interesting matchup. Let's see if we can get a line, and then I'll give you a thought on that, because I think the Metro Atlantic team in this matchup, I don't know if they're live in this game, but I'm leaning in that direction. I think they're going to be a much improved basketball team this year. We got 9-point favorite for St. Bonaventure. They opened 10 down to 9. So some people agreeing that Niagara could be improved. It opened Bonnie's -10. It's Bonnie's -9 right now. Total 149, 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. I think Niagara will be improved. I think this could be a team that's a little bit of a under the radar, maybe a team that could move up to the upper echelon of the Metro Atlantic this year. I mean, it's year 3 of the head coach for Chris Casey. Now 5 starters back, all 5 back for this Niagara team. It's a team that offensively is fantastic. They're a great shooting team. They're a great perimeter shooting team. They're a great free throw shooting team. They are excellent offensively, and I want my underdogs to be able to score and put the ball in the basket, especially on the road. They can do that. Defensively, that team is going to still need to grow a little bit, no question about that. But I think they're going to be able to get better there in that regard. Purple Eagles actually defensively really came on late last season. Were very good in terms of their 2-point field goal defense down the stretch last year. And I think that's going to be big for them going on the road. If you can defend around the rim, it's going to give you a shot. And I love St. Bonaventure too. It's a very good basketball team in that A10. They're another team in that conference that has a chance to hang up there with some of the better teams inside that conference, like Davidson, VCU, Rhode Island, teams like that. I think St. Bonaventure can be up there too. I just think in this spot, there is not as much value on St. Bonaventure as there is Niagara. People know St. Bonaventure is going to be pretty good this year and one of the better teams in the A10. I'm not sure people are quite aware of just how much improved, or at least how much I think Niagara is going to be improved this year. So I think the value is a little bit on Niagara. I could see people coming in and taking out the 10s on Niagara in this game. I think it's a competitive game. Maybe the Bonnies win it. It's not easy to win in Olean, but it's a close battle. It's an in-state battle. Niagara from Western New York, St. Bonaventure not that far down the road in that state. So it's like a nice little in-state battle here. Both teams will come to bring it, and I think Niagara could give them a game.
Yeah, actually, this is a game I have circled. I'm waiting to have it go back up, because I think tomorrow you're going to see some, when the public looks at these lines and says, "Oh, college basketball's back. Let me take St. Bonaventure because I know who they are and I don't know who Niagara is." Here's the truth of the matter, and here's why doing your research and knowing about these teams pays off. Okay, I'm going to tell you why, Ian, because you know about this. St. Bonaventure has 2 players, and I said to Donnie Wright, they may have the 2 best guard duo in the country. Jalen Adams and Matt Mobley are fantastic. They're very good. But that's about really all to me that I look at and say, what does St. Bonnie do well? They always have good guard play, okay? The concern that I have for them against Niagara is a very veteran-laden team this year, and they have 2 guards themselves that are fantastic. Khalil Dukes and Matt Scott are really good players. And I think they're going to go toe-to-toe with these 2 guards. You talk about guards, what a great matchup this is. 2 high-level teams In mid-major circumstances this year, two good groups of guards.
Yeah, Jalen Adams, Matt Mobley for St. Bonnie. That's pretty damn good too from a guard perspective.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, to me, they're one of the better guard duos in the country. But people don't know much about Khalil Dukes and Matt Scott. They're really good, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited about this matchup. You got seniors and 4 seniors on 2 different teams battling back and forth. I think this is too many points. I'm hoping we can get 10 here. I like them. I can see them going into Olean and winning. It wouldn't surprise me. I think this Purple Eagles team has some good depth. They have a nice little rotation at this point. And I actually just liked Siena a little bit more. I would have taken Niagara as my sleeper here. Monmouth's down a little bit this year. Manhattan's coming back from a tough year. It wouldn't surprise me to see Niagara make a run and knock off a team like Iota. They have the guard play to do it. So whoever asked about this one, great call.
It was Lomas, good guy from
cool.
Crew,
Football observer, yeah. Good guy there. As far as Yale, you kind of mentioned it. Here's the problem with Yale tomorrow. They're facing Creighton, who Creighton lost a lot.
They still have Marcus Foster, though, do they not?
Exactly. That's my point. Cole Huff's gone. Actually, you know what? Cole Huff may have remained there. Justin Patton left.
I check that. Hold on.
I need to check their roster here, because if Cole Huff's still there, you have a piece there from last year for Greg McDermott. I actually am happy to see Greg McDermott remaining there. I know he's always probably had the ability to leave and move on, but Kyrie Thomas, Marcus Foster, and here's kind of what you got to love about Greg McDermott, okay? And this is why I have to respect the guy. He went out and got a guy named Tyshawn Alexander this year out of the recruiting end. He went to Oak Hill. He's from Charlotte, North Carolina. He's a top 30 recruit. I mean, the fact that he got him to go to Creighton, really impressive, I think. I think that's really impressive. You bring in Caleb Joseph from Syracuse. That's a big move as well for me. I'm not sure that I like Makai Mason. I like Yale. They'll be a decent team in the Ivy, but I think Creighton's a pretty good basketball team, to be honest.
Oh yeah, Creighton. To me, I would go Yale before Creighton in this game, but it is still a tough place to play for a road team, Omaha. That gym's always been tough.
CenturyLink's great, yeah.
Exactly, one of the better home courts, especially when Creighton's good. And you just wonder sometimes. I've seen this with Yale before. I remember in tournaments past 2 years ago, I thought they could hang in there with a team like Duke, and I think they ran out of gas late in that game in a tournament setting a couple years ago. It's still tricky at times. You get an Ivy League team to go on the road and ask them to hang, especially in the price range where sometimes a lot of times they're getting double digits. That's not the case here. It's down to 8 now with Yale as an underdog here against Creighton. So are you getting that line value? That being said, I think Creighton's going to have a little bit of a tough time. Mo Watson gone. That's obviously a guy that they're going to have to replace, even though he had injuries last year. They already had to deal with him. Justin Patton, of course, gone as well. So it's one of those situations where where's this backcourt going to be right away in game one? Are they going to be able to handle the ball well? Are they going to be able to make good decisions? Are they going to be able to shoot? Are they going to be able to play good defense at the point guard position? That's going to be the question mark for Creighton this early in the season. So I'm definitely leaning toward Yale. Will I pull the trigger? We'll see. I'd prefer this number to be bumped back up a little bit, but I think it's not crazy to make Yale a little bit of a bet here in this one.
Yeah, this is kind of one where I think we're definitely on opposite sides here for sure. I like Creighton. I do. I think overall they're pretty much in a good situation. You mentioned Marcus Foster. When he left last year, that was 40% of their offense they lost. I thought last year, Ian, that in my opinion, I thought Creighton healthy was a top 10 team, honestly. I thought they were really good. And when he went out, it hurt. He was a real focal point of their offense. Not Marcus Foster. Who am I talking about? The kid that went out last year. I'm drawing a blank on his name. You mentioned it.
Mo Watson.
Right, Mo Watson. Sorry. Yeah. And he's from Philadelphia. How did I forget? He went to BU and then he went to Creighton. When he went out, Mo Watson, like I said, it was like 39% of their offense they lost. they had to deal a lot of the season without him. And there were some growing pains, but I think they're better suited this year to be able to deal with that. And like I said, I mean, you're bringing back some guys that are familiar, bringing in some recruits. You bring in a kid from Syracuse, Caleb Joseph, that had a decent career there. But yeah, I mean, Yale's always one of those 5-12 options that always seems to win in the big dance. Someone's mentioned, I think Kevin White's mentioning about the fact that Navy is a favorite against Pittsburgh, and that was one of the surprises to me. I mean, how far Pittsburgh basketball has fallen.
The secret's out. I mean, how Kevin Stallings and this Pitt program was a disaster area last year, and now there's a lot of people saying it's not going to get any better. It may even get worse this year. I mean, the secret's clearly out. To have Navy favored in that game tells you all you need to know. Everybody thinks everybody's on that anti-Pitt bandwagon right now.
It's a shame because I remember, growing up, like when I was in high school, they were a good. I mean, remember some of the teams they had, Gary McGee and Nasir Robinson, and they had some good teams back in the day under Jamie Dixon. But I got to ask Stallings why he took this job. I mean,
I say the same damn thing. Why did you ever leave Vanderbilt? Yeah, the deep spot there, and I don't get it either.
I never understood it. I mean, they have one player named Ryan Luther. He's pretty good. He went to Hampton. He came to Pittsburgh. But other than that, I think they could be incredibly bad. But, I mean, do I feel the need to get involved with Navy either? Not really. I mean, for me, it's the Patriot League's all about Bucknell, but Navy is decent. I mean, Ed DeChilius is a good coach. He's a guy that, and Pittsburgh is this bad. I mean, Pittsburgh's bad. But do I think they have the same athletes as Navy? Probably. Leaning here, I would lean Pittsburgh, frankly. I just can't say that I think they're going to lose the Navy, but I guess we'll learn early how bad they are. You look
Safety,
at it,
by the way, in the Seattle game just now. So 9-7 Seattle against Arizona. There you go for those watching the NFL game.
By the way, this game's in Annapolis also, so it's not even in Pittsburgh. It's actually down at the Naval Academy. So that'll be cool. A little Veterans Classic. Hey, by the way, in Pittsburgh, this can show you how bad they are. Okay. So they played Slippery Rock. Do you know what Slippery Rock is?
Slippery Rock, isn't that in Arkansas?
No, it's actually in Pennsylvania. And the reason I bring this up is I actually
it's off the mark there.
Yeah, the town that I live in now. I live west of Philadelphia now in a town called Lancaster, and the university that we have here is Millersville. And they're in the PSAC, the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. It's Division II. And I remember when I was in high school, Slippery Rock used to come to Millersville all the time. And back when I was in high school, Millersville had a really good basketball team. Like, we were nationally ranked. And I remember Slippery Rock would come there, and they were always terrible. And Pittsburgh beat them 71-59. Fairly inconspicuous score line there. So, I mean, you're having trouble against Division II teams. It makes me kind of realize, Navy's going to be up for this game. This is Big Bad, Big East Pittsburgh. They're coming into the Naval Academy. Our basketball team's got to pick up the slack. Our football team not playing well. We got a nationally televised game here on CBS Sports Network. Let me pull what I said on Pittsburgh.
That should get you fired up, if nothing else. I mean, you're on television. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. East Tennessee State against Northern Kentucky is going to be a good game. Yeah, you're damn right. It's going to be a good game.
I don't think ETSU is going to be quite as good as they were last year. Very good, but
that's a good observation by you, Ian Cameron. You're always on the mark. They're not going to be. I was very high on this Bucks team last year. I actually, in my bracket, picked them to beat Florida, and they played really well for about, 34 minutes or so. And then the last 6 or 7 minutes, they just kind of took a shit. But they have a little bit of rebuild here. TJ Cromer's gone. Mosca Pereira's gone. DeSante Bradford's back, but Steve Forbes has a little bit of a rebuild with this team. And the problem in the SoCon is there are 5 teams better than they are. I like Northern Kentucky. Ian, there are so many teams in college basketball, but I got to tell you, what John Brennan's done at Northern Kentucky is nothing short to me of unbelievable.
Don't I know it? Guess who rode this team through that whole Horizon
You?
League tournament run last year? Me, exactly. And I said it over and over again on multiple shows. Northern Kentucky, I'm riding them, and eventually it got them. What a great run they had. A tremendous run. Yep.
Ian, if you go back, and this is the truth, if you actually took the time to go back, I remember in like the second or third game of the season last year, Northern Kentucky played West Virginia. And I was on my podcast, and I told every single person on it, buy low in Northern Kentucky. They're a good basketball team. They're going to go to the tournament this year. Nobody listened to me. Nobody, I don't think, even cared. I'm a big fan of John Brennan.
Yeah, they looked at you like, what are you, nuts? Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
I mean, this is a team that was in, the lower ends of Division II. I mean, they built up. They began as Northern Kentucky State College. That's what they started as. Played Division II for many years, then moved up to the big boys. And what do you know? Last year, eligible finally, and they go to the tournament. Amazing. I mean, Ian, in 2012, they were playing the likes of Findlay University, and now they're at the big time playing Kentucky in the National March Madness tournament. Amazing stuff. They're just as good this year. You got a rebuilding team against a team that's kind of feeling themselves at home. And what I like about teams like Northern Kentucky is, you look at kind of the school, they're in Highland Heights, Kentucky. Now, last year, I'm sure many people didn't give a flying fuck about Northern Kentucky basketball.
That's close to the Kentucky-Ohio border. It's really the northern part of that state. Yeah.
And Ian, here's what happens when you have little areas in the in the United States like this. They go to the diner and they, Flo, the waitress, comes up to the table and she goes, "Boy, did you see Northern Kentucky last week?" "Yeah, we did. They're looking good, aren't they?" Season's half over already, though, so they don't get tickets. Play well, they go to the NCAA tournament, and everybody starts talking. Johnny the milkman starts talking, and Carl, the auto parts store owner, starts talking, and before you know it, everybody closes and goes to the Northern Kentucky game. They're going to have a great home crowd tomorrow night. You can believe that. I would lay it here.
I'd lay the point exactly. I'd lay the points before I take them here. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is a great little spot for the Norse. Let's do one or two more, Ian, then we'll wrap it up. I know there's some people on that may catch us a little bit later. How about we do this? I'll pick a game and you pick a game, and we'll kind of just ride off into the sunset.
We'll answer Kevin White here. A&M West Virginia. That's a game I have no opinion on, no interest in betting either side. I've got questions about either side, but I have some hopes for both sides in this game. It's one I'm staying away from, and then you've got suspension issues surrounding both teams. So I'm looking forward to watching it, but I won't have a bet, not even close to having one.
Yeah, a lot of suspension in this game. Make sure you're doing your due diligence and figuring out who's playing and who's not. This has not been a good year for college basketball, especially off the record. I mean, a lot of issues for these teams. By the way, if you're interested, Ball State's still getting crushed. If anyone cares,
Texas A&M has a great front court, lots of size though, and that is teams on paper, in theory, that I like against West Virginia. West Virginia is one of those, down and dirty, ugly type of basketball, forced turnovers. Obviously, you want to protect the basketball. You don't want to be a team that gives up the ball and commits too many turnovers, but you also want to have that toughness down low because West Virginia plays that type of style as well. Just play get in your face, get in your grill, and Texas A&M can play that kind of style with their front court, which is very talented, has got a lot of talent, skill on it. So from a matchup advantage, that could be one that A&M has, but I'll still wait to see what they do in this game before I bet it.
Yeah, I want to make some people aware just because I wonder if this will actually get out. I know we did a video for it, but some of these smaller conferences, it's tough to get some of these out on SBR, so I don't know if they get out. But I want to just put something out. South Dakota State starts their season tomorrow, 6:23, 6:24. They start out at home against UC Irvine. And, I know, Ian, you remember Mike Daum last year, the great player for South Dakota State. And I want to make people aware.
The Dominator's his nickname. Yep.
I think it's possible, Ian, that he might be the best player in the country overall. He won't get the respect, but he is to me. And you look at, he's a junior. So next year, Ian, I'm going to tell you what he's about to do. If everything works out, doesn't get injured, he's on the verge of becoming the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history. Doesn't happen very often.
That is. I mean, his skill set is incredible. When you watched him play last year, he's tremendous with the touch around the basket, tremendous low post, a guy that can step up and shoot incredibly well from beyond the arc, from the three-point line.
Listen to this. And this
unbelievable dexterity and flexibility he's got. And he can play inside, can play outside. For a guy that size, unbelievable. I agree.
This is how incredible he is. I want to tell you. And this is from my friends at dribblehandoff.com, a really good analytic website. In the last 20 years, Ian, I'm going to put what you said into context here. In the last 20 years, he's only the second player to average at least 25 points a game, 8 rebounds, while shooting 50% or more from 2 and 40% or more from 3. Do you happen to know who the other player was that did that?
I wouldn't even be a hazard a guess.
Kevin Durant.
That's good company. Very good company. Great company. No, he's good. And unfortunately, he plays in the Summit League. He plays on South Dakota State. Doesn't get that national TV time. Doesn't get that hype that the ACC stars and the Big 12 stars and the Pac-12 stars and the Big East stars, Big 10 stars get. And as a result, you just don't hear about him as much when he's a fantastic player. And unfortunately, he's buried in a smaller conference. You only see him at tournament time on a national stage.
And it's interesting because you kind of compare him and a guy like Doug McDermott. You look at Doug McDermott's sophomore year, 22.9 points a game, 8 rebounds. Mike Daum, sophomore year, 25 points a game, 8 rebounds. You look at, as a freshman, 15.2 points a game. Mike Daum as a sophomore, 25.1. What's he going to do this year? He in 50 points a game? If you go by the numbers, it could be 35 a game, 40 points a game. It's just amazing what Mike Daum's done. He's a truly special player. And here's the great thing about tomorrow night. He doesn't have to worry about Mamadou Ndiaye, the big boy from UC Irvine. He's moved on. He plays in the NBA G League at this point. Mike Daum, I'm going to go out on a limb here and tell you, I think he's going to drop a big number on the boys from UC Irvine. Here's what you have to deal with tomorrow from UC Irvine, Ian. That you'll get a kick out of this. They have a kid named Brad Green, UC Irvine. He's 6'10", 320. He's a big kid.
Wow.
Possibly pretty slow also. I'm a little concerned about what might happen on the perimeter for Mike Daum, especially off of a big year. People are excited in that area of the United States. This is a good basketball team. A lot of good role players as well. South Dakota State's another team that I'm buying into tomorrow night.
And one last question before we each get to our games, and then we'll wrap it up in the next 5 minutes. But someone asked, Wichita State now the favorite in the AAC. AAC still a very, very good conference. We know Wichita State, the newbie there. It's a good move for Greg Marshall's team. No question about that. A tremendous backcourt, 5 returning starters. I think 6 or 7 seniors on that Wichita. It's insane. I mean, just how much experience, talent they've got. They're going to be a tremendous, tremendous basketball team. But let's not overlook Cincinnati. I still really like that team this year as well. The Cincinnati Bearcats going to defend, going to rebound. But finally, an influx of scoring could be coming their way because they bring in this guy, Broom, from, I believe, one of these Northeast Conference
Sacred
teams.
Heart.
Yeah, and he's going to make a difference. If he plays anything close to the offensive capabilities he saw there. And I remember betting the Northeast Conference tournament year after year the last few years. I've been watching these games, and I saw him play at Sacred Heart. He's a fantastic scorer, just what the doctor ordered for Mick Cronin and his oftentimes nails on a chalkboard, offensively challenged basketball team for the last several years that he's been there. I am not ready to rule out Cincinnati winning this conference. It's not going to be easy to take down Wichita State, but at the same point in time, Cincinnati's thinking to themselves, here's Wichita State blowing into town, the new kid on the block in the AAC. Everybody thinks now they're going to win this conference. That's bulletin board material for Cincinnati, and that's a little chip on their shoulder to maybe prove the pundits wrong and give Wichita State all they can handle. So I'm not overlooking Cincy. I think if they get a little bit more offense, and Broom could help that, that's a dangerous basketball team.
But here's the thing about them you have to like in the American. Landry Shamet's going to play tomorrow night, but McDuffie's still out. They're going to have to, kind of band-aid their season early on Wichita State. I like your points there. I think Cincinnati, I think for years, I think boosters went to Mick Cronin and said, look, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but you need to get some offensive scoring in here, because I remember when they had guys like Yancey Gates and Sean Kilpatrick. I mean, they just couldn't score. I mean, they had a great defensive team, but
and with guys like that, it was not just contested shots. I mean, they were missing wide open looks, nobody around them within 5 feet, and they're still missing these wide open looks. That's how bad their offense was at times. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, this could be your SMU in this conference this year. SMU, the problem with them last year is they weren't very deep. They had no depth. They literally played 6 guys. I could see that with Cincinnati, because you look at this core. Jacob Evans is a good guard. I love Gary Clark. I love Kyle Washington. He's a kid coming in from NC State. I like Broom. And then I like Jaron Cumberland, the sophomore. He played really well last year. They might have a 5 or 6 man rotation. I'm interested to see what they have depth wise. But I agree with you. I like Cincinnati a lot. I think Broom's a great player. He's a kid at Sacred Heart that you didn't really get the pub that he should, but he's going to get it from Mick Cronin. The concern with Mick Cronin is, like Fran McCaffrey, he's a guy that can lose his team games at certain points. But he's just a little bit of a nut. But I mean, isn't he not? Is he not?
Yes, definitely. That can be the case at times. But all I'm saying is that Cincinnati, all these years, what's killed them? Inability to score when it matters most. They finally got a guy that I think not only can be a consistent scorer, but that clutch time scorer. If you're going to be in close games, Cincinnati's going to be in a bunch of them, because they're never going to pull away from anyone. You got to have a guy that can make a big shot late in the game. Broom did it at Sacred Heart. Can he do it in a bigger, tougher level of competition? We'll see. But he showed the skill set to do it in the Northeast Conference. If he can bring it to Cincinnati, look out.
Ian, I don't know where I would go to look for this, but I might have to maybe try to find one of my locals and see if they'll give me a bet on this, because if they do, I will make it. You look at Cincinnati's schedule. Have you seen their schedule to start the season?
It's probably not too challenging.
Okay. They play Savannah State, Western Carolina, and Coppin State.
Yeah.
I might find my bookie and I might ask him, listen, give me a trifecta here. I am going to bet you that Cincinnati wins all 3 of these games by 30 points or more. And I'm going to see if he'll take that bet.
Wow.
Because I think they can absolutely torch these 3 teams. Coppin State's terrible.
How's Coppin State in particular going to score the basketball against this kind of defense?
You know who coaches Coppin now?
Off the top of my head, no.
Juan Dixon.
Really? Former NBA or former college player?
Maryland,
yeah. Wow, Maryland.
Good job. They need some rescuing down there, Coppin. Hopefully he can. Hopefully he can inject some life. But I'll be interested to see if they give me an added line on this game. This game goes tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern, Savannah and Cincinnati. So I'm going to see if I maybe get a line on this one. We'll see. Other than that, let's wrap it up here, Ian. I know Gabe Morency's coming up, and I'm sure many
it's a different platform, but we want to get out of his way. We want to let him have
exactly. What I did is I'll give out the games that I've already bet and the games that I'm looking at as far as looking to bet. I got Missouri -2.5, UCLA -8.5, Oakland -6.5, South Dakota State. I'm going to move on at 6.5. I'm going to take Niagara. I'm going to wait to see where that line goes. And I also took Detroit Mercy against Vatech. I think that's a little too many points. Vatech lost a lot in their front court last year. I'm pretty high on Detroit Mercy, the Fighting Dick Vitals. I'm a big Jaleel Hogan fan. I think they can hang in that game. They have a good offense. I think they could put up enough points to hang in that game. So I'm going to add in more tomorrow, but I urge everyone, tiptoe around. Don't go crazy with college basketball, but
pick your spots. Exactly. And for me, big man, 2 games that we haven't actually talked about these games, so that's good. Everything that I've given out so far is a lean. I'm not sure if I'll get in or not, but I gave you a bunch of leans. Niagara, I'm with Jeff on that one for sure. I'll probably end up betting on that. I've actually bet 2 already. If you love laying big points, we're laying big points here. We're laying big points with the TCU Horned Frogs tomorrow night. It's a lot of points, 25, and actually I got a better number. I got 23.5. with TCU. It's 25 now. It's a lot of points, but This is a good TCU basketball team, took strides forward last year, and a absolutely sorry situation as far as I'm concerned for their opponent in Monroe. It's a complete rebuilding job here for Keith Richard and his team. This has a team that was dreadful offensively last year, have to replace their point guard who was there for 4 seasons. There's new players everywhere in that backcourt. Marvin Jean-Pierre is their leading returning scorer in the backcourt, but other than that, he's one of those guys that's almost going to have to do it all for this team offensively. Down low, there's not a lot of depth there in the low post. That's a problem against a tenacious foe like this on the road, playing a team like TCU. Jamie Dixon's team came on like a freight train late last season. They're going to be even better this year. I think Monroe is walking into just get apt to get their brains beat in here. I will lay the points with TCU here.
They won the NIT last year. If you listen to my Big 12 preview, they are my sleeper. I like that pick, Ian Cameron. I like that pick. I like it a whole lot. Hey, interesting.
And Belmont, too, +3 at Washington. I'm going to take a shot with Belmont. I know it's on the road, long travel and all that, and a little bit of retooling, too, for Rick Byrd. But Rick Byrd doesn't rebuild. He reloads. That's the way it is at Belmont. And every year, they're one of the best teams in the Ohio Valley. It's going to be that way once again this year. In Washington, of course, we know Markel Fultz gone. And now who's going to step up? Is Thybulle going to step up and score for them? They've got a new coach, new scheme.
David Chris.
Yeah, exactly. Jim Boeheim disciple and Syracuse taking over there as the head coach. So you think they're going to go 2-3 zone. That's not easy to implement early on for a brand new team and a team that didn't play any sort of defense last year. Now you're going to trust them to implement one of the more difficult to play and implement defensive schemes and structures in college in basketball. I don't believe it. I don't believe this is going to be growing pains coming for Washington. Maybe there'll be a good team in time that's pretty decent hire actually coming from Syracuse, a guy that's been a major program assistant under Boeheim there, but it's going to take time. They don't have a great deal of boatload of talent that they brought in. I know in long term, Lorenzo Romar being gone is a good thing. He had to go. Enough's enough. Enough of this mediocrity there. And Lorenzo Romar wasn't getting the job done, but it's going to take time to get Washington going. I think Belmont alive. I think they can win outright. So like Belmont +3.
Yeah, I actually, I know we're going to be on opposite sides here. I don't quite understand what Washington exactly wanted out of Lorenzo Romar. I mean, he's been in the Sweet 16 4 times. He's brought countless high-level recruits. He's put 20 different players in the NBA. I'm not
just
quite
can't
sure.
Coach the scheme. A great recruiter. I said this last year. Great recruiter, but can't coach your scheme.
They're never going to win the Pac-12. I mean, unfortunately. I mean, I just don't really quite get. You're going to have to reload anyway at some point. That's just how college basketball goes. But I mean, what do they want? Good recruits, or do they want to go to the NIT every year? I mean, that's really, I guess, the question. I don't know, but I hear you. I like Belmont. Rick Byrd, I mean, as far as coaching, he'll coach circles around either of these guys. Austin Luke's good player. I like Ega Casey. I actually like that play a lot. I like both your plays. And if anyone's interested, 5 Dimes, one of the books in this business that I think a lot of us have, they actually list lines for every single game, Ian Cameron. So there actually is a line on Cincinnati tomorrow. Did you want to know what it was?
Oh, yeah, the added board games. Yes, 5 Dimes is good with those. Definitely the added board. What's Cincinnati? Yes.
I'm going to let you guess. The Savannah State.
Savannah State. 35?
Wow, you're close. 34.5.
Wow, half a point.
Here's
I figured it had to be a mid-30s with Savannah.
Here's what you want to know about Savannah. Savannah State is all they do is shoot threes. They want to shoot 50 a game. But here's why I can't back Cincinnati, Ian Cameron. You know why?
Why?
Their betting rotation number is 666.
So, that's unlucky. Snake. Oh yeah, that's the kiss of death, right? Kiss of death, right? 666.
Campbell's getting 15 points tomorrow against Penn State. That's an interesting spot as well. Chris Clemens is an amazing player. Can he go into Penn State and handle those boys? I don't know, because Penn State is basically the Philadelphia Catholic League. I mean, they basically went in there and got every good Catholic League player and sent them to Penn State. So take a look at the added board. It's very interesting. A lot of good games tomorrow in that neck of the woods. Iona Albany will be a great game. There's some good ones here. So we'll be back. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. I'm sure Ian will gladly take a DM as well. We'll try to do this as much as we can. Good luck in college basketball. Gabe will be on SBR coming up next.
Just a heads up too, Jeff, before we sign off for the viewers, we're going to be on in some form next week during the week when we get more games going on in college basketball, either on the SBR platform or here, but one way or another, we'll be breaking down some games for it. Yeah,
exactly. Everyone have a great night, and we'll see you next time. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone. See you.